Do you want to get a calm game with the white pieces? Well, not today, son, because your opponent is playing the King's Indian. Okay, finally you prepared everything. You get a winning position. But guess what? You're still gonna get mated because you're facing the damn King's Indian. Are you mad because the McDonald's ice cream machine is broken? Guess what? It's probably because of the King's Indian. Well, today's your lucky day because I'm gonna teach you how to play the mighty King's Indian. How we're gonna do that? I'm gonna be walking you through 3 rapid games that I played on my speedrun account. So hopefully you guys can keep up and let's dive right into the actual games. Welcome back, everybody. You dirty King's Indian rebels. It's gonna be one of those videos, I guess. Okay, opponent playing d4, c4. We're gonna be King's Indian and let's see what he plays. Knight to c3. Looks like it's gonna be one of the main lines. White is going to build a big white center. Could castle, could play d6. Bobby Fischer liked the castle, but d6 it's a little bit more flexible. And out of all the moves, knight f3, bishop e2. My opponent decides to go with the Saemisch. Saemisch, which used to be a favorite variation of Anatoly Karpov. Idea to play bishop e3, and the way Karpov used to play it quite a lot, he was gonna go for a setup with short castle. I'm gonna castle. And which line are we gonna play? Let's castle, and then I think I'm gonna do a6, knight c6. I'm gonna go for tricky stuff. So bishop e3 expected. It's also possible to play Saemisch with bishop g5, but most people do it with the bishop on e3. This is the main line. Okay, important just to know in general, the e5 move, which is main King's Indian stuff, main King's Indian pawn push, not so good against the Saemisch, because after d5, okay, what's the goal with e5? You wanna play knight e8, f5 break, but knight e8, g4, white has a great setup against f5 push. So Saemisch kind of meant against the typical e5, f5. That's why you need to be a bit versatile and diversify your strategy. So we're gonna do a6 on the Saemisch. In general, c5, it's also to be advised against Saemisch. So this is usual thinking process in King's Indian. If e5 push is not so good, then c5 is gonna be best. So I can play c5 now as a pawn sacrifice. You can do it even here. Here it's best move to play c5. But I want to show you a different variation. So queen d2 typical. Now expecting knight e2. Castle long, it's natural move, but a mistake. Also, I could do h4, bishop h6. Those are like alternatives. Bishop d3 also common move. Bishop d3, not so good. Okay, knight e2, and this is the starting position where I wanted to get you to. So, okay, normally when you're playing like this, it's possible to do rook b8, b5. That has been the, let's say, old established main line. But there is this kind of not really new anymore, but cute idea to play knight a5, targeting the pawn. And knight c1. Knight c1 should be one of the best moves. Knight c1 important. But most people that play modern Saemisch would go knight g3 or pawn b3 with idea to play knight g3. This is how they do it more often in modern Saemisch. But knight g3 is not such a good move. Similarly, b3 has a bit of a drawback, which I'll show you in a second. Also notice that it's bad to push c5 because I go knight c4 anyways. And I'm gonna win the dark squared bishop, and black is gonna be slightly better with bishop pair. Also, it's very nice if we can trade a pair of pieces. So with lack of space, such an exchange, exchange our knight, it's gonna make the position so much easier to navigate around. And okay, let's see. Knight c1, its main move. Yeah, he should be playing that. But maybe he's a little bit caught by surprise. Knight f4, they also do from time to time, but b3, knight g3 are the most common in my experience. Okay, so knight f4. Now I need to remember, this is the tricky part. But I think I'm gonna play same idea. I think it should work on knight f4 same way as it does on knight g3, or at least similar. Because knight c1 has the advantage of controlling b3 square. So knight c1, I would have played the knight d7 move. And usually the game goes b4, knight c6, rook b1, and then e5, d5, knight d4. And okay, the line goes knight b3, f5, with interesting pawn sacrifice. But after knight f4 and knight g3, because b3 square is vulnerable, there is no more knight on c1 fighting for that. I would have done same idea on b3 as well. You have this interesting b5 pawn sacrifice. So perhaps it's clever for white to push and just avoid taking. It's a pawn sacrifice, opening up the file. And you saw he immediately, not even thinking about it, he just grabbed. Now, based on already the kind of hints that I gave you, please feel free to pause the video and find a pretty good move for black. Because this was like the whole setup. We opened up the file and it's so easy to overlook this idea. Especially in Blitz. If you play this in Blitz, people around even like 2500 allow this variation all the time. It's completely crazy to me. It is just mind-boggling that such a little trap can work so effectively. And okay, it's a line that happens specifically in the Saemisch, in the e4 f3 thing. So if you are just a beginner trying to make some sense of this video, thinking to recreate this yourself, it's important to have this mental anchor. It only happens in the Saemisch. So it's more of like a high elo thing. You have more chances to get this in high elo, above 2000, I would say. Alright, castle. So I just did bishop a6 to look for exchanging pieces. We are up in material, so we prioritize trades. Okay, I'm gonna trade, I'm gonna get rid of his knight, and time to bring our rooks on the open files. So we have no black pawns, meaning that this is where the rooks are gonna go. I could do queen a5, rook fb8. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna develop another piece. Rook fb8 coming, maybe knight d7, making some room for c5. Could do that in the future. Maybe knight b6, knight c4. Could be an idea as well. I'm just playing conversion game right now, so every trade that we can get, it's gonna be making our game easier. And let's see. Rook b8. Queen c1. Just a queen move, trying to bring the queen in the game. Not really much white can do. Maybe it's interesting to consider e5 break at some point to open up the center, to open up lines. Maybe knight d7 and then e5 so that we can take back with the knight. Could be interesting. Okay, knight d3, no threat, protecting. Let's just try to improve our knight. Maybe still e5 idea. Maybe knight b6. Problem with knight b6 is that he can play b3. But maybe then we just go back and we say that we have weakened this knight. I think that could actually be pretty clever. Because once b3 is played, c5 becomes more interesting because dc5 is not gonna be a move. Okay, so we start like this, b3, and then we just go back. So it's nice to soften the knight. So I want to do this. It's such an annoying move. My knight would be getting so active that I think my opponent will be doing something to stop it. So knight b6. Yeah, I'm pretty much sure that he's gonna play b3. Never mind. I guess we're gonna get a strong knight. And currently, this is well protected. It's my opponent trying to say. Is it though? Do we have some tactics? Knight capture. We don't seem to have knight capture yet. Okay, bishop. Can we improve the bishop? Can we do a move like that with tempo? It's possible, but then what next? Okay, so bishop h6, eyeballing e3. So maybe bishop h6, he has to do rook e1. But rook e1 already, I have bishop d2. Yeah, so bishop h6 is improving our worst placed piece. Bishop was restricted by this pawn. Now f4, if he does it, it's gonna soften some squares again. f4 is very risky move. He could play f4. Maybe f4 is best already, lesser evil. f4, and can we try to say the knight is overloaded and go rook takes on b2? It's gonna have queen d3. It's kind of hard to believe that it works. I mean, he just resigned apparently. I still would have had to do quite a bit of conversion after f4. I wasn't sure what to play. It's like -1 position, but my opponent just kind of frustrated with himself, and for a good reason. After allowing that that trick, he just resigned. Yeah. But okay, remember this this idea, guys. If you had problems on the Saemisch, you may want to give this one a go. a6, knight c6, and you only play knight a5 when it comes with a tempo. So if my opponent did anything different, yeah, like bishop d3, knight a5 doesn't make sense. It doesn't come with a tempo. He can just push me away. And on the Karpov variation, wait, what was the best move on the Karpov variation? No, so this is not Karpov variation. This is, you can do knight d7 and then e5. Karpov variation is bishop d3 here. On this, I already showed it on the channel. I had this even in one over the board game. I showed it in the recap. Best move is this weird but incredibly overpowered knight fd7. Because after knight e2 c5, threatening to play knight c6, and after d5, because white needs to defend the center, you're winning bishop pair at least, because the bishop cannot go back to c2 due to the hanging pawn. And the plan is to just do b5, take, sacrifice the pawn, get the bishop on a6, and then queen a5, rook b8 with just killing compensation. It's just even like -1 according to the computer. So yeah, now you guys know how to deal with the Saemisch. So with that being said, I think we can move on to the following game. Welcome back, everybody. Some coach on coach action. El coach Rene. We're gonna try to King's Indian his ass in the most respectful way possible. And wow, he plays London system with h3. Yeah, this is actually how I recommend it to be played in my London system course, which for sure he's not using. But yeah, okay, how do we play against this? Damn, I should know what is the refutation of my own setups. Okay, so I think we start with d6. Yeah, just good move in general. So we played like King's Indian. Ah, no, never mind. He doesn't play like my course at all. Yeah, so the point in my course is to play c3, knight e2, e4, following footsteps of Gata Kamsky. But e3 is the normal, is the normie way of playing the London. So I think I'm gonna just castle and then do c5. Ah, so he plays it this way, yeah, but I'm not super sure his move order is on point. I don't really remember precisely. But okay, one thing that's out of the plate is queen b6 runs into knight c4. Because it's one line, you have to hope for queen b3, bishop e6. But here he has knight c4. But I'm pretty sure we should be able to get a good gambit of this. Ah, he took with the c pawn, yeah, pretty sneaky. Okay, this is not really gonna be playing for advantage. Like, expected him to take this way, but it's vulnerable to opening up the e file with great counterplay. If he takes with c pawn, I'm not so sure anymore. Can we still play e5? DE, knight e5, knight d5. Okay, let's still do it. Looks possible. This is kind of why its setup is not so great. Yeah, why I didn't recommend it in my course. Black has all kinds of quick e5. If black knows, it's pretty much game over in terms of playing for anything. So as London, it's not like you necessarily really play for an advantage, but you want the kind of game where you still keep interesting middle game, despite it being equal. So yeah, now 95, 95 is to be expected. Targeting bishop and pawn in the long run. So yeah, this is double attack. So this, yeah, he takes, hitting my queen, I have to take. Now big threat, bishop b2, and also some knight f4 idea, yeah. Knight f4 and bishop b2, both moves are a bit annoying. Maybe knight c4, yeah, he can play. Knight c4, I have knight f4, and even though I'm not winning right away, okay, I mean bishop h2, I don't think he's supposed to give me pawn on b2. I have at least knight c3 winning exchange. Now this can get pretty disastrous quickly. Like castle, I may even have knight c3 and he resigns. Yeah, so he probably declines rook b1 on view of knight c3. And it's easy to blunder here, castle, and underestimate power of knight c3. Okay, white can actually lose very quickly here in the London if it's not careful. But yeah, I believe knight c4 allowed that position after knight f4 pawn takes, and I should have compensation, full compensation in many ways with bishop pair. But probably tough to play it for more, realistically. But yeah, bishop b2 now, I think rook b1 is lesser evil somehow. And then knight c1, queen c2, queen b3. Okay, yeah, so he castles, but as I said, I don't take the rook. Yeah, he really expected me to take the rook. But now everything is uncorking. He has like 4 pieces hanging at the same time, which is probably like a world record while playing the London system. Yeah, in London system, everything is so cozy and protected. Yeah, now all of a sudden, not so much the situation. Queen e1 or what to do? I don't know really, like queen e1, what else to play, but I have bishop a1 and your queen is overloaded. I'm up a full rook. I'm really gonna be up a full rook. And I can move my knight because he cannot take my bishop because the knight on d2 will be hanging. So it could be resign time pretty soon. But yeah, okay, queen e1, so don't take. Yeah, I was about to rush because then his rook connects and take care of the duties, but bishop a1, simple move. And expect bishop f3. And then I have to find some good move maybe. Bishop a6, yeah, simply. The other rook is getting trapped. So main problem, queen a1, not only I take knight, but I take bishop first. Yeah, so I'm currently up a full rook. Let me just remind you that. And okay, bishop c4. So bishop c4 doesn't really have a threat. Yeah, still queen a1 is not being threatened because I take the knight. And okay. How do we play it? I could just do knight b5, yeah, looking for simple ways to continue. I have to be careful, yeah, he's gonna have some, he'll try to play for some dark square compensation, which, yeah, could get ugly potentially if you're careless, but we should be having this under control. I'm looking for knight b5, yeah, just enter that position, queen a1, queen d2. Okay, he has one active move, rook d1, but then I have queen c3 perhaps. So yeah, knight b5, simply making room for the bishop to go back home to the kids. You know, it's Christmas time. Daddy is coming home, full of gifts. Okay. Yeah, now queen c3, I was thinking just to force endgame almost, yeah. Yeah, in fact, I'm either forcing endgame or I'm winning another piece. So bishop b5, important I have queen a1 intermezzo. So he's not even getting any pressure, which is nice. Yeah, that could have been the only possible problem. But yeah, I mean, opponent really couldn't have done much better. He just got caught with this pawn sacrifice in the opening, which is incredibly annoying to play for. And I'm saying it because I was on the receiving side as white many times, yeah, before I learned it. So this e5 is just completely killer of this slow setup in normal London, not in the Jobava. Jobava London is for the OG. Jabava London is pretty good. But if you play like this, yeah, I think okay as white. You either have to find some move order to make sure this thing is not allowed, or just follow Gatakamsky approach that I also recommend in my course. So okay, bishop f7. There is one trick in the position, because if he goes rook d8, king g7, white is winning with the x-ray. There is bishop e5. Trick, but I mean I can take rook d8 and I can just block after. Play rook f8 and yeah, no more tricks. He's gonna check me, but I have rook f8. Okay, it was nice try by him. There was one trick, but that's about it. And yeah, could try queen d1 now or something, but I already have way too many pieces. Everything is coordinated. Realistically speaking, it's kind of time. It's kind of time. Okay, queen d1. Do I have funny move bishop g4? Targeting the rook, forcing him to take on f8. I have to take with the rook, and he cannot take with the queen because of back rank checkmate. Ah, but he can take with the h pawn, and I don't have follow-up. Yeah, so bishop g4, it's losing a bishop for no reason when I can just play bishop e6 and develop. Okay, yeah, just bishop e6, making sure we close any diagonals. His queen has no infiltration squares. These guys are defended. Okay, expecting him to play rook a8, but I'll just take and slowly consolidate. Okay, rook d3. The show must go on. Okay, rook d3. Okay, so there is queen b2 to target f2. There is queen f6. Yeah, I think I like queen f6, targeting f2 and preparing rook d8 to fight for the file. So now expecting bishop g3, but I have rook a d8. Also have knight c3, knight e4 as a move, but I just wanna force trades to simplify the game. Okay, rook and extra knight. Not too shabby. Okay, opponent reminds me that I have an inactive knight that I should activate. I will do promptly. And some queen c2 expected. Do I have bishop f5? No, it's a bit too much, yeah. Queen d2, now knight e4 with tempo yet again, yeah. And I get rid of the bishop as well. Yeah, pretty rough. And as per usual, after a brutal game, it's time for a capybara break. Look how it's moving the nose. It's probably smelling that the next game is gonna be very good. Boys and girls, here we meet again. Facing barely 2100 opponent from Georgia. Plays d4, c4. Gonna be going for King's Indian, and let's see what they have against it. Against the King's Indian, it can be anything and everything. From 3 pawns in the center to a gazillion of pawns in the center to Okay, sometimes no pawns in the center almost. Yeah, white could also play setups with e3. So let me explain you a little bit what is up with this 4 pawns attack. Well, obviously white is kind of trying to smother us with their pawns in the center. Already you can notice that the thematic King's Indian push e5, it's much more difficult to achieve. So instead, we're gonna have to play it more of like Benoni style, which means we have to break with c5 instead. So I'm gonna play c5. Normally I expect them to advance, and in case of dc, normally it's queen a5. So pinning the knight, threatening knight e4. Oops, that idea. And expecting bishop d2, queen c5. This is how those lines go. But on d5, we're gonna do e6. Now, after e6, I expect bishop e2, but also they could take. After takes, it's important to take with the pawn. I once took with the bishop and I got pretty cramped position. So it's important to just take with the pawn, and then those lines are pretty reasonable. However, expecting him to do bishop e2. And then I'm gonna go ed, cd, and then if I can recall it correctly, ed, not a good move. Possible, but not great. I think I would have played cd. So the thing is, there are all kinds of variations possible in this position, like rook e8, e5. It's a thing. But you can also play cd, knight, bd7. It's an interesting move. But I think, yeah, if I can remember my analysis, the plan was to play bishop g4 simply. Castle, put the knight on d7, h3, bishop takes on f3, bishop takes, rook e8. I was looking to play that version of the Benoni. With interesting play. Should be around equal, of course, with perfect play for both sides. But yeah, on this, white is definitely making a bit of a concession. Because if you think about it, we managed to trade e7 pawn from here for his central pawn. So this is pretty nice improvement. And it's between rook e8 or bishop f5. The idea with this position is that it's okay, playable, but we just lack a square for one of our minor pieces. So in order to be fully okay, you normally do it with knight e4. It's just a matter of, do I do bishop f5, knight e4, or do I do rook e8, knight e4? I don't know, I vividly remember bishop f5 as a move, and then castle, knight e4. Knight takes, bishop takes, and after knight d2, important rook e8 move, if my memory serves me right. Okay, I'm gonna go for that. Because if you do bishop f5 instead, he has g4 move. I'll show you in a second. Yeah, obviously he'll probably just castle. And yeah, I think now knight e4 is nice to lengthen the diagonal of this bishop and trade a pair of minor pieces. So expecting some knight move to target my undefended bishop. And I think it's important to do rook e8 right after, despite losing bishop pair. But okay, he goes bishop d3. Interesting moment. I have rook e8 just defending, probably best move. Don't do queen e7 because you are self-pinning. Taking on d3 is, of course, yeah, reasonable, and then some rook e8 move, but then it brings the question, why take and not keep the tension, play rook e8. Sometimes bishop f3 can be an idea that you don't want to underestimate. Bishop f3 and then knight d7. Sure, you're losing bishop there, but you can try to make the argument that the bishops are a bit useless. Doesn't seem to be the case here though. I think rook e8 is standard way to continue. Takes, and then maybe I back up the rook with queen e7. And it's already maybe not so easy for white to play because the bishop has to babysit this pawn on b2. Yeah, notice that fianchettoed bishop gets to deal quite a lot of damage on the long diagonal. So white needs to be careful. Yeah, it's symmetrical possession. right? Like, it can be difficult to play it for a win, but okay, this one specifically, uh, um, it's more chances than normal, I would say, to play it for a win as black. So queen c2, he just wants to pressure me into taking, and now I can take and notice that compared to previous move, I won rook e8. I have extra move. So if I was to take, now I play rook e8, it's white's turn. And now if I take, I have rook e8, but it's our turn. So just by applying simple rule, protecting the bishop, looking to trade in our terms, not rushing for the low-hanging fruit, well, we won an extra move, and more specifically, we are controlling the only open file on the board. Now just finishing development, 97. Still tricky for him to develop the bishop. And f5, okay, could be a move. Yeah, they normally look for such things, but it's a bit loose. Also not threatening anything. I'm eyeballing queen e7 in that position, maybe. Queen e7, queen e2 idea. Okay, not e1, but here. Also b5. b5 could be underrated sacrifice in this type of positions to play like a Volga kind of gambit. Okay, so he does rook b1, yeah? So what is the point behind his last move? He probably just wants to either fianchetto or move the bishop without losing the pawn. Okay, what can we do? Well, there is this b5 that I just mentioned. How much I like this idea. Let's say he takes and I play queen b6, yeah, threatening c4. He could do bishop e3. I have queen a6, yeah. No, let's go for it. It's very interesting, yeah. I told you these positions are have potential to get much more interesting than what it looks. Maybe white, okay, it's clever to play b3, yeah, and not accept sacrifice. And he does it pretty quickly, okay, good for him. Yeah, but okay, at least now I can take and I have knight b6 with long-term pressure on c4. So I've got a bit of a soft pawn that we can play for. Imagine I teleport my queen to a4. It's not easy for white to protect. And bishop b2, yeah, I mean I can take. Can also ignore. Play queen d7. Probably taking just to avoid the unpleasant check that he normally has after trading on g7. I think we go for trade, and then I'm debating between queen e7 or queen d7. That's pretty much it. Okay, queen f6 could be a move as well. Yeah, just developing the queen and gaining a tempo. Shouldn't underestimate the idea as well. Oh, queen f6 actually double attack. I forgot pawn on f4 can be taken as well. Queen f6 is probably best then. Queen d7, ideally you want to play strategic, but it feels a bit slow here. Can also maybe get some f5 counterplay. So this move, expecting him to go over there. Now, can we take the pawn? Let's say he moves the knight somewhere. Where can he go? Maybe knight d2. Then I have queen e3, pinning him. Queen e3, rook e3, rook f7 he can play. It looks scary, but can he back that rook up? I have rook e2. Trying to remove defender of c4 pawn. Let's say he goes rook back on f2, take. Rook e8. Yeah, I'm looking at that position. I'm not sure. It's probably slightly better for us. Is there anything better to play for? I don't really think so. Just have to play queen f6, and actually I have to speed up. I just spend an eternity calculating. Sorry for that. Slow calculator here, but I do eventually get the job done when it comes down to 2 or 3 moves. In that range, I'm relatively comfortable, so normally you don't need more than that. So queen f6. I was just trying to dive a bit deeper into the position and evaluate whether we have realistic chances of Finally picking up the c4 pawn, but rook f2 maybe we don't have to take at all. I could also, it could be one of those positions where, okay, rook e7 move is interesting as well. Rook e7 to double up, but probably rook e7, yeah, he wants f5. I don't think we can do something like g5 and sidestep, or maybe we can. Actually, I calculated all that nonsense. Let's not go for it. Let's keep it very simple. His pieces are kind of stuck. f5, I'll do g5, I'll sidestep. Yeah, okay, I can also do rook here and after takes to take with the h-pawn. And if knight d2, queen d4 possible. Or I can just do g5. With idea knight d2, rook e8. I think I like this just, okay, it's weird play, but if we manage to set up a blockade and take over the e-file, this can actually really make sense. There is a bit of a soft pawn on f5 that, you know, his queen is kind of overloaded to. Possibly queen f4 was the play. Just go to that one-sided position. Maybe with this I'm playing a bit too ambitious, but okay, it makes sense to me. Also we stop knight e4 with last move. Rook e3. Expecting rook f3 maybe. Then okay, maybe rook e2. Rook e2, rook f2 he plays, yeah, and then what? Rook f3, can I go queen d4 check? G4, but that allows rook e3 with tempo, no? That shouldn't have been allowed. G4, okay, sensible move, but he's not watching out for my ideas. Now I have this, I also have queen d4. Queen d4 looks juicy enough. Rook e2 idea, queen g4 idea, still rook c3 on the agenda. Not sure queen d4 was precise, maybe I was just lazy to calculate rook c3. Yeah, could have also played rook c3. f6 I would try now. f6 with idea some queen f5, so maybe on f6 it makes sense to do rook d3. But knight b3 he plays what? 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 Excuse me, I take. Take and rook g2. So having, I have to take c4 pawn, it's safer. Trade queens, extra pawn. Good control over the board. Should be relatively winning. I have to play like h6, just getting a bit of reinforcements, and as long as I make sure that my king is safe, should be able to convert. Okay, trading pair of rooks should help, but first, okay, let's just activate to max capacity as much as we can. Probably forcing rook g2 and then I have rook d4. Or even rook d3 better to keep the rook to have pressure still. Better to use e3 rook to maximize potential of both rooks. So yeah, we just win the game by applying simple concept. We were controlling the only open file on the board. That's literally all it was. We didn't do more in this game, even if it maybe looks like that. No, we just controlled only open file on the board, and a lot of the times there is in itself such a big strategic asset that it normally converts into a win with a bit of technique, but I don't think we did any crazy moves this game. Okay, so rook d3, rook e3, pressuring his weak pawns. He can check me, but I have king g7. If f6, I will make a luft, of course. About to win the h-pawn. We'll have three extra pawns. He may chase the a-pawn, but I already have too many. I can already trade the rook, and then I have rook a3 to make him passive, which is nice. Yeah, so I have this, rook d2. Am I actually winning a rook by force? Nah, he has king g1, important move. King f1, rook h1, I'm winning rook. But king... oh, he's giving me rook. Nice. That's a common pattern. I win the rook. Okay, let's just take the pawns. Okay. I will act like I'm going after his pawn. But in reality, we have much more dirty ideas prepared. I will cut the king so we can start the Moan Loner checkmate. Okay, let me play d5, cutting his rook. Okay. This, we're lining up the cannons. If he checks me, I take the pawn. Okay, rook e8, but I trade the rook and rest is easy. Rest is pre-movable. So rook e2, take, pick up the pawn, cut the king, take on f6. Make sure rook is defended. This is pretty fun. NGL, this is pretty fun. And pawn checkmate. All right. Thanks everybody for making it all the way into this video. Let me know in the comments. Let's make a thing on the channel with comment on the day of the day. Type in the comments. Capybara King's Indian if you made it all the way till here. Like the video because some people say it helps. I don't know if it helps. Maybe it helps the channel grow. And if you want another King's Indian video, perhaps you're gonna like this one. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the channel. Have a good one.